And then, of course, you moved on, to the place where guys like Bob Costas got his start being a student and graduating from Syracuse. So, how was that like breaking into the industry, Rich, when you first graduated from Syracuse?
It was difficult, like it was for anybody. There's a very small faction of us, Colton, that get a dream job right off the bat, and it's a rocket ride to the top. That happens sometimes, but I would say it happens 1% of the time. That's what I tell all aspiring sportscasters. The one percenters are the ones we know about. They're the ones we aspire to be like. But only 1% of us gets to do that. The other 99% of us, and I include myself, are grinders. And you have to love the job and the work and what I consider a craft and getting better all the time. So when I graduated, it was tough. I had to move back home. I was teaching tennis. I was doing odd jobs, whatever I could just to make enough money. My first goal was not, I want to get a job in sportscasting. Believe it or not, Colton, my first goal was I need to make enough money so I can move out of my parents' house. That was the goal for me. Obviously, if a sportscasting job allowed me to do that, that's gravy. And fortunately enough, a job came along, not in sports, but in journalism, that allowed me to do that. And that set me on a little bit of a different path. Another thing I always tell young sportscasters is there is no one path that we all walk down at different times. Everyone carves out their own path. And mine, if I thought long and hard about it, mine's probably a little more circuitous than most sportscasters who are doing what I'm doing now. My first job as a quote unquote sportscaster that allowed me to move out of my house wasn't in sportscasting at all. It was working for the Associated Press in New York City. But the reason I bring that up is my first two jobs in television I got solely because of this name that I'm wearing right now. And that's not to say that Syracuse is the only school, because there are dozens and dozens and dozens of terrific journalism programs across the country collegiately. But Syracuse has what we call the Syracuse Mafia, the Newhouse Mafia. And that really is a funny way of saying if you make it through Newhouse, the broadcast journalism program, you have a whole wealth of people who have done it before you who want to help you make it in this business. And I had that. And the one person was a former professor of mine. And when I was living in New York City, working at the Associated Press, not on TV, not on radio, and not in sports, I kept in touch with this one professor. And he called me 8 months into my job at AP and said, you know what? There's a former classmate of yours who's working at a TV station in Great Falls, Montana. And he just called and told me they're looking for a weekend sports anchor and reporter. Are you interested? And you know this before I even say it. My answer was yes, 100% yes. Applied for the job, got it without having to fly out there for an interview. I did my interview over the phone, sent him my reel, and the rest is history. But 6 months after that, the same exact thing happened. Same professor, same opportunity. Former Newhouse graduate was leaving a job in Tampa Bay, had a job opening. Are you interested? Yes. And that brought me down to the Tampa Bay area where I've been for 30 years now. So Syracuse is a seminal part of everything I've done in my career.
What were some of the biggest lessons that you learned, Rich, in those years that you talked about with your move to Montana and then your move to Tampa? What do you think were some of the biggest lessons that you learned that really set yourself up for a lot of success, obviously now and later on in your career at that time?
That's a great question, Colton. I think one of the first things that comes to mind is it's okay to make mistakes. I took the path of make your mistakes when no one's watching. That's how I termed it, because I was in market 172. Like, I didn't even know Great Falls, Montana existed when I got that job opportunity. So it's a small audience. If you're working covering a school on a streaming platform, understand, read the room, understand that millions of people are not watching. Sometimes maybe thousands of people aren't even watching. It could be dozens of people, but those dozens of people deserve your best. So you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but make them before the stakes get really high and learn from that. The only thing you could do to get better is to get those reps and to get in front of a camera or behind a microphone or both and discover who you are as a sportscaster. Find out who that best version, that most authentic version of you can be. And if it's good enough, someone's going to recognize that and hire you away from whatever job you're in. And that fortunately happened for me.